There is a silent shadow hanging over every Tim Hortons drive-thru and every suburban cul-de-sac from Halifax to Victoria. It's a shadow fact that the government won't admit and your bank won't disclose. The Canadian middle class is no longer a destination, it's a trap. For decades, we were told that a degree, a 40-hour work week, and a modest contribution to an RRSP were the keys to the kingdom. But today, that kingdom is gated by a cost of living that has decoupled from reality. You feel it every Friday when your direct deposit hits, only to see it vanish into a black hole of pre-authorized debits before you've even had your first coffee. We are living through the Great Canadian Illusion, a period where our GDP looks stable on paper, but the visceral experience of the average citizen is one of constant, grinding scarcity. Why does a six-figure salary in the GTA feel like a survival wage? Why are we the most indebted nation in the G7? The answer isn't just inflation. It's a systemic extraction of wealth that targets the very people who keep the country running. But the most dangerous part isn't what's disappearing from your wallet. It's what's coming next, an open loop in our economy that most aren't prepared for.
Walk into any Loblaws, Sobeys, or Metro, and you'll witness a masterclass in psychological warfare. It's not just about the price of butter hitting double digits. It's the no-name trap. We've been conditioned to accept lower quality as the new standard, just to keep our caloric intake consistent. Shrinkflation has turned our grocery carts into boxes of air, where the packaging stays the same size, but the contents wither away. This is the visceral pain of the grocery squeeze. When Galen Weston's profits hit record highs while families are debating whether they can afford both milk and eggs, the social contract isn't just broken, it's been shredded. We are seeing a shift where the relatable Canadian life now involves checking flyers with the intensity of a day trader. But there is a hidden cost here that no one talks about: the health tax. As fresh produce becomes a luxury item, the long-term cost to our healthcare system and our personal vitality is skyrocketing. We are trading our future health for today's processed affordability. And yet, as bad as the grocery store feels, it is nothing compared to the ticking time bomb sitting in your mailbox every month, the mortgage statement that no longer makes sense in a high-rate environment.
The Canadian housing market has moved beyond a crisis into a full-blown existential threat. Whether you are a renter in Vancouver paying $5 a square foot, or a homeowner in Brampton watching your variable rate mortgage explode, the pain is universal. The Bank of Canada's interest rate hikes were meant to cool the fires of inflation, but for the middle class, they acted as a gasoline drench. We are seeing the disappearing equity phenomenon, where people who did everything right, saved for a down payment, passed the stress test, are now seeing their entire take-home pay consumed by interest alone. The dream of homeownership has been replaced by the nightmare of permanent tenancy. In the GTA, the rent-to-income ratio has surpassed levels seen in global hyperhubs like New York or London, yet our wages remain stagnant, tethered to a Canadian economy that prioritizes real estate speculation over industrial innovation. This is the rent trap, where you can't save because rent is too high, and you can't buy because you can't save. It's a closed loop designed to keep you running on a treadmill that is slowly increasing in speed, and the exit ramp is nowhere to be found. But wait until you see how the CRA treats the little progress you do manage to make.
The CRA tax bite is the most polite form of theft in the modern world. In Canada, we pride ourselves on our social safety net, but the bracket creep is silently eroding your purchasing power. As inflation drives nominal wages up, you find yourself pushed into a higher tax bracket, even though your actual standard of living has decreased. You work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and for every extra hour of overtime you put in to combat the rising cost of gas, the government takes a larger percentage. It's the productivity penalty. When you factor in federal tax, provincial tax, CPP, EI, and the ever-present carbon tax, the average Canadian worker is effectively working for the government until June of every year. This creates a psychological ceiling. Why strive for a promotion when the net increase in your pocket barely covers a week of groceries? The complexity of our tax code also means that those who can't afford high-end accountants are the ones paying the most. We are told that taxes are what we pay for a civilized society. But as wait times in ERs hit 20 hours and infrastructure crumbles, many are asking where the civilization went.
This leads to the most common financial blunder in the country: the misuse of the very tools designed to help us. The TFSA and RRSP are touted as the ultimate wealth-building tools for Canadians, but they are often the source of devastating financial mistakes. The shadow fact here is that most people don't actually understand how they work, leading to massive CRA penalties. Over-contributing to a TFSA by even a few $100s can trigger a 1% monthly penalty that eats your gains faster than inflation. Meanwhile, the RRSP is often used as a piggy bank for first-time homebuyers, but the repayment trap catches thousands every year. People forget that an RRSP is not a savings account, it's a tax deferral mechanism. If you withdraw it during a high-income year, the tax hit is visceral. We see Canadians putting money into these vehicles while carrying high-interest credit card debt at 22%, a mathematical disaster. You are essentially trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. The confusion around these accounts is a symptom of a larger problem, a lack of fundamental financial literacy in a country that is becoming increasingly expensive to navigate. We are playing a high-stakes game where the rules are written in fine print, and the penalty for a mistake isn't just a fee, it's years of delayed retirement. And speaking of delays, let's talk about the cost of simply getting to work.
In Canada, a car isn't a luxury, it's a survival requirement for 90% of the population. But the car-dependent tax is reaching a breaking point. Between the skyrocketing cost of used vehicles, the highest auto insurance rates in North America, especially in Ontario and BC, and the volatile price of gas, the simple act of commuting has become a major line item that rivals housing. We are seeing the rise of 84-month and even 96-month car loans, meaning people are underwater on their vehicles before they even hit the first oil change. This is debt-fueled mobility. You need the car to get to the job, but the job barely pays for the car. When you add the carbon tax of a pump, which compounds with every delivery and transport of goods, the cost of living ripples through every sector of your life. The commute itself is a time tax that steals hours from your family and your health. We are a nation of long-haul commuters, stuck in 400 series traffic, burning expensive fuel to reach jobs that don't pay enough to live near them. This geographical mismatch is a silent killer of the Canadian dream, creating a literal and figurative barrier to getting ahead. But even if you stay home, the costs follow you through the vents.
The great Canadian boast has always been our free healthcare, but we are beginning to realize that free has a very high hidden cost. The reality of 2024 is a healthcare system that is buckling under the weight of an aging population and underinvestment. When you can't find a family doctor and have to spend 12 hours in a waiting room for a basic prescription, you are paying with your time, the only currency you can't earn back. This has led to the hidden private tier. Canadians are increasingly turning to private clinics, out-of-pocket specialists, and even traveling across the border to the US for surgeries they can't wait years for. This is the double pay. You pay through your high taxes for a public system you can't access, and then you pay again with after-tax dollars for private care just to stay functional. The mental stress of this uncertainty is a visceral pain point that no one in Ottawa seems to have a solution for. We are losing our peace of mind tax, realizing that the safety net we were promised is more like a sieve. This health anxiety bleeds into our financial decisions, making us more risk-averse in an economy that demands innovation. It's a cycle of stagnation that starts in the clinic and ends in the stock market. Higher education was once the guaranteed ladder to the middle class, but in today's Canada, it's often a golden set of handcuffs. The education debt loop is a reality for millions of young Canadians who graduated into an economy that values years of experience over years of study. Student loans are being carried well into people's 30s and 40s, preventing them from entering the housing market or starting families. We have a mismatch where we are overeducated for the jobs available, leading to degree inflation. You now need a master's degree for entry-level administrative roles that paid a living wage to high school graduates 30 years ago. The cost of tuition continues to outpace inflation, while the quality of the on-campus experience has shifted toward administrative bloat. This creates a generational resentment. Young Canadians feel they followed the instructions to the letter, only to find the prize at the end of the race has been moved. They are starting their financial lives at a massive deficit, paying interest to the government on the very tools meant to help them contribute to society. It's a paradox that is hollowing out our youth and forcing them to look elsewhere for opportunity. But the costs don't stop at the classroom. They extend to the very air we breathe during a Canadian winter. Winter is not just a season in Canada. It's a financial assault. The utility squeeze is a visceral reality from January to March, where heating bills can jump by 300%. With the phase-out of traditional fuels and the rising costs of natural gas and electricity, staying warm has become a luxury. We see the heat or eat dilemma becoming common in our northern communities and even in urban centers. The carbon tax, while designed with environmental goals, adds a layer of cost to every therm of heat and every kilowatt of power. For the middle class, there are no subsidies to help transition to expensive heat pumps or solar arrays. You are stuck with the infrastructure you have, paying a premium to survive the climate we were born into. This is a geographic tax that our neighbors to the south simply don't face. It's the hidden reason why Canadian disposable income is so much lower. We spend a massive portion of our wealth just fighting the elements. This seasonal volatility makes budgeting impossible and forces many into high-interest credit use just to bridge the gap until spring. It's a cold reality that is making the Canadian landscape feel increasingly hostile to those without deep pockets. There is a social cost to this economic pressure that no one talks about: the isolation of poverty. In a country where a simple night out, dinner and a movie, can easily cost $150 for a couple, Canadians are withdrawing from social life. We are seeing the death of the third place. Pubs, community centers, and local cafes are emptying because the discretionary income that used to fuel them has been diverted to rent and groceries. This leads to a visceral feeling of loneliness and a breakdown of community cohesion. When you can't afford to grab a drink with a colleague or take your kids to a professional hockey game, you lose your sense of belonging to the Canadian dream. We are becoming a nation of hermit workers, moving between our expensive homes and our demanding jobs, with no social buffer in between. This isolation has a direct impact on mental health and productivity, creating a social recession that mirrors our economic one. The middle class used to be defined by its participation in culture. Now it's defined by its exclusion from it. And even when we do venture out, we are met with a new, aggressive form of financial pressure that didn't exist a decade ago.
Tipping culture in Canada has reached a fever pitch, becoming a guilt tax on an already exhausted population. It's no longer just 15% for good service at a sit-down restaurant. It's 18%, 20%, or even 25% prompts at subway shops, liquor stores, and even some self-service kiosks. This is a symptom of a broken wage system. Employers are offloading the responsibility of a living wage onto the consumer, creating a social friction that makes every transaction uncomfortable. In a 2% growth economy where real wages are falling, being asked to tip 20% on a $20 sandwich is a visceral pain point. It's the awkwardness tax. We feel the pressure to comply because we know the worker is struggling just as much as we are, but we also know our own budgets are at a breaking point. This creates a friction-filled economy where the joy of service is replaced by a calculation of obligation. It's another way the middle class is being nickeled and dimed into submission, one skip the dishes fee and service charge at a time. This micro-extraction adds up to thousands of dollars a year, money that could have been used to fund a TFSA or pay down a mortgage, but instead it vanishes into the ether of a service-based economy that is cannibalizing itself. For years, Canadians were told that GICs and savings accounts were safe. But in the current environment, safe is just another word for guaranteed loss. The safe investment lie is that a 4 or 5% return is good, while real-world inflation, the stuff you actually buy, is running much higher. When you factor in the taxes you pay on that interest, your real rate of return is often negative. Your purchasing power is being eroded by the very institutions meant to protect it. This forces the middle class into risk escalation. To get any real growth, you have to dive into a volatile stock market or an overpriced real estate market, often at the worst possible time. We are seeing a speculation requirement, where you can't just be a saver, you have to be a professional investor just to tread water. This is a profound shift in the Canadian psyche. The stability our parents enjoyed, where a bank account could actually grow wealth, is gone. We are now forced to gamble with our retirement funds because the safe path leads directly to poverty. This constant need to chase yield creates a baseline of anxiety that permeates every financial decision. We are all living on the edge of a market correction that could wipe out years of disciplined saving in a single afternoon.
The most significant divide in Canada today isn't political or regional. It's the intergenerational wealth gap. We are moving toward a neo-feudal society where your quality of life is determined not by your hard work or your talent, but by whether your parents bought a house in 1995. This is the inheritance lottery. If you aren't in line for a massive transfer of wealth, the ladder to the middle class has been pulled up. This creates a visceral sense of hopelessness for young professionals who see their peers receiving gifts for down payments that exceed their entire lifetime savings. The bank of mom and dad is now the largest lender in the country, but it's a bank that only lends to a lucky few. This disparity is tearing at the social fabric of Canada, creating a class of permanent renters who will never build equity and a class of asset owners who are insulated from the cost of living crisis. This gap is the shadow fact that explains why some people seem fine while others are drowning. It's not about merit, it's about timing and lineage. And as the cost of assets continues to outpace wages, this gap will only widen, creating a Canada that looks more like a collection of estates than a land of opportunity. The gig economy was sold to us as flexibility and freedom, but for many Canadians, it has become a survival mechanism. We are seeing a surge in full-time hustlers, people who work in 9 to 5 and then spend their evenings driving for Uber or delivering for Skip the Dishes just to cover the gap between their salary and their rent. This is debt-defying labor. It's the exhaustion of never being off the clock. The hidden cost here is the wear and tear on our vehicles, the lack of benefits, and the total absence of a safety net. You are trading your future health and your vehicle's depreciation for immediate cash flow. This is a devaluation of labor, where the worker takes on all the risk while the platforms take the profit. It's a symptom of an economy that can no longer provide a living wage for a single job. The side hustle has been romanticized, but the reality is a grind that leaves people with no time for family, community, or self-improvement. We are becoming a nation of micro-earners, chasing algorithms for a few extra dollars to pay the CRA. This is the hustle trap, where you work more but have less, and the harder you run, the further the finish line moves. It's a visceral, physical drain that is hollowing out the Canadian workforce from the inside out. There is a growing infrastructure mismatch in Canada that is adding a hidden inconvenience tax to our lives. As our population grows at record rates, our services, from transit to schools to community centers, are stuck in the 1990s. This is the squeeze on public space. You see it in the transit cramming, where a 45-minute commute turns into a 90-minute ordeal because of delays and overcrowding. You see it in the daycare desert, where parents have to put their children on waiting lists before they are even conceived. This lack of capacity is a direct cost to the middle class. When public services fail, you are forced to find private alternatives, which are always more expensive. It's the failure of the commons. We pay some of the highest taxes in the world, yet we find ourselves competing for basic resources, like a spot in a swimming lesson or a seat on a train. This competition for basics creates a low-level hostility in our cities, as everyone is fighting for a shrinking piece of the pie. It's the shadow fact of Canadian urban planning. We are building up, but we aren't building out the services to support it. The result is a lower quality of life that we are paying a premium to endure. The mental health toll of the Canadian cost of living crisis is the silent epidemic of our time. We're told to be resilient, but resilience is a finite resource. The financial anxiety tax is the cost of constant worry, the sleepless nights wondering if you can afford the upcoming dental work or the new winter tires. This stress has a visceral impact on our bodies, leading to burnout, chronic illness, and a breakdown of relationships. In Canada, mental health support is often locked behind private insurance or long wait lists, creating a wellness gap. Those who need the most help are the ones who can least afford it. We are seeing a crisis of hope among the youth, who look at the math of their future and see no path to the stability their parents had. This despair is an economic drain. It reduces innovation, lowers productivity, and increases the burden on our already strained social systems. We are paying for our economic efficiency with our collective sanity. The cost of resilience is becoming too high to bear, and the cracks are starting to show in every workplace and every home across the country. We are a nation on edge, waiting for a relief that never seems to arrive. But even the small luxuries we use to cope are becoming targeted by the squeeze. The subscription leak is the modern-day death by 1,000 cuts for the Canadian budget. We are being subscriptionized into poverty. From Netflix and Disney Plus to Amazon Prime and specialized software, the average Canadian is paying hundreds of dollars a month for services they barely use. But in Canada, we face a regional premium. We often pay more for the same digital services than our neighbors in the US, despite having less content. This is the digital border tax. Telcos in Canada are some of the most profitable and protected in the world, leading to the highest mobile data and internet costs on the planet. We are paying a connectivity tax just to participate in the modern world. These recurring costs are invisible debits that eat away at your fun money before you even realize it. When you combine this with the appification of everything, where you have to pay a monthly fee for your car's heated seats or your smart home's doorbell, you realize that you no longer own anything. You are just renting your life. This permanent subscription model is designed to keep you in a state of constant outflow, making it impossible to build the lump sum savings needed for major life transitions. It's a digital cage with a monthly fee.
Why does a product made in Canada often cost more in Toronto than it does in Buffalo? This is the Made in Canada Premium, a bizarre economic reality where our own resources and products are sold back to us at a markup. Between internal trade barriers, high regulatory costs, and a small spread-out market, the cost of doing business in Canada is astronomical. This efficiency gap is passed directly to the consumer. We are a nation of resources, yet we pay some of the highest prices for energy, lumber, and food. This is the resource paradox. We export our raw materials and import the finished goods, losing the value add at every step. This economic leakage means that our dollars don't go as far as they should. The shadow fact here is that our economy is built on oligopolies, a few large players in banking, groceries, and telecommunications who have no incentive to lower prices. This lack of competition is a stagnation tax that every Canadian pays every day. We are living in a protected economy that protects the corporations, not the citizens. The result is a high-cost, low-value environment that is slowly draining the middle class of its vitality and its future. This is why the silent exit is becoming a reality for our best and brightest.
The silent exit is the ultimate cost of the Canadian crisis. Our most talented doctors, engineers, and tech workers are looking at the math and realizing that their future lies elsewhere. This is the brain drain 2.0. When a young professional can double their salary and halve their cost of living by moving south of the border or across the ocean, the decision becomes a mathematical necessity. We are losing the very people who should be building the next generation of Canadian industry. This loss of human capital is the most expensive cost of all. Every time a Canadian-trained doctor leaves for Texas, we lose the hundreds of thousands of dollars we invested in their education and the millions they would have contributed in taxes and service. This creates a death spiral. As the tax base shrinks, the burden on those who stay increases, leading to more exits. We are becoming a training ground for the rest of the world, subsidizing the success of other nations while our own systems crumble. This is the shadow fact that the government is trying to hide with high immigration numbers. We are losing our homegrown talent because we've made it impossible for them to thrive here. The Canadian dream is being exported, and we are left with the bill.
So, where does this leave us? The Great Canadian Squeeze is real, it's visceral, and it's not going away anytime soon. But the open loop of this story is that while you can't control the Bank of Canada or the CRA, you can control your financial architecture. The solution isn't just saving more, it's thinking differently. It's about understanding the shadow facts and moving from a consumer mindset to an asset mindset. It's about leveraging the very few advantages we have left, like the TFSA's tax-free growth and the potential for geographic arbitrage within our own borders. The middle class isn't dead, but the old way of being middle class is. To survive, you must become your own economist, your own tax strategist, and your own advocate. The hidden cost of living is a tax on the uninformed. By watching this, you've already taken the first step toward opting out of the illusion. The path forward is narrow, and it requires a level of discipline and knowledge that our parents never needed. But for those who are willing to see Canada for what it really is, a high-stakes financial puzzle, there is still a way to win. The question is, are you ready to stop playing by the old rules and start building a new Canadian dream? The future belongs to those who see the shadow and choose to step into the light. Subscribe, and let's